So there's a ton of new stuff to unpackage, but we're gonna look at the Can-Am Defender and all the new stuff, along with how it compares to other vehicles that are already on the market. And so I'm gonna show you guys a couple of pictures. Like I was saying last night, it's got all new LEDs. All of the components are upgraded, and I'm gonna show you that in detail and show you each component and stuff and how it's been upgraded. Your A-arms, all that stuff is bigger, beefier, so everything is supposed to be longer lasting. They've added about 300 pounds of weight to this machine, and as you can see here, the front end is totally different than what it looked like before. You've got a lot beefier, bigger winch front bumper. The winch is magnetic, so it knows when it's all the way back. And it's got synthetic rope. So they're really listening to their customers. If you get a limited with the two-door model, you're gonna get 2 speakers, the full in-dash. If you get a Lone Star Edition, you're gonna get 4 speakers in the roof and with your in-dash. Now you can get those with a subwoofer, which I would highly recommend if you want a complete sound system. It's always nice to have that from the factory. Now this machine, they were claiming that is a lot quieter, as we're gonna see. And I think that is a lot because these come with floor mats from the factory, which I'll show you guys that. Now, if you get the Lone Star and you're limited it up, it's gonna have tinted windows, better seals. The Lone Star is gonna have this rock slider piece on it. And as you can see here, here is the new in-dash that comes along with it. So we can look at that and we can see the HVAC system is now like Polaris, which I am so thankful that they went to, instead of that little analog thing that they had that was just complete garbage. Nobody liked it. It was too complicated to adjust your fan speeds and stuff. And then if you go on over, you can see the steering wheel controls here. You've got all your buttons where you can control this infotainment system right from the steering wheel, which is extremely nice. This steering wheel now also completely folds up in the dash and drops down. So you're getting a lot better rotation in the actual dash and stuff. You can see the controls a little bit better here. Now this year, this model's HVAC is supposed to be a way more robust system, along with the actual fan speed is supposed to be a lot faster, and we're gonna see what they claim in a minute. You can see your shift gate and stuff up here looks a little bit nicer. All of your HVAC vents are way nicer than they were prior. They're bigger, they're longer finned, and that's gonna give you way better airflow and things like that. This, they didn't change. Like I was saying last night, I have no clue why they didn't change this. To me, they dropped the ball on that, because like if you look at the Kawasaki Ridge, which I actually think is a very, very high-end segment, you know, one of the best statistic-wise on paper machines you can get, and we're gonna see that. They have a way, way nicer infotainment, you know, like dash right here. Now this is a nicer dash, I think, than the Ridge, but we'll look at that in a minute. Here you can see the LEDs a little bit better. You've still got your running light. All of your LED bars and stuff integrate right with this link system, and you can see here that the A-arms look bigger. They're still not as big looking as something like the Expedition. The Expedition arms are insanely beefy, which this isn't competing with an Expedition, but I just wanted to tell you guys that so you had that info. Here you can see another picture of the dash, some of the detailing and stuff in it. You've got this here, this little nook where you can put stuff. Inside here, you've got your like wet box, so you can put stuff like a cell phone, things like that. I think there's also a charging port in there. And all your seats flip up so you can put stuff just like the years prior. Here you can see the dash and the layout. So now you've got your steering, your DPS and how it switches, your modes, your locking diff, and your how everything works together. You know, it's just actually that's not in the Defender part. Let's see. Here we go. So you can see it here, the steering wheel controls. If you look, this is okay. I can't really make out what this is, but you've got 4 buttons on here that show you different things with the actual machine. And then here is a cutaway of the motor. I think this is gonna be your actual oil change filter box where you can change the oil filter. I'm not 100% sure, but that's just what it looks like to me, which is how the old one was made, canister style. But hopefully this will be a lot more accessible compared to the previous years, which I think it will. Everybody's hoping at least. Here's your P-drive clutch system. Here's a cutaway of it showcasing that. So you guys can make a judgment whether you like it or not. But the P-drive supposedly, as we're gonna see in the statistics, is a lot better clutch. I actually seen people on the internet today say that it just doesn't grab as good down low as the older clutches. I've not drove one with P-drive. You guys can tell me your thoughts on P-drive versus the original clutch, but Polaris claims that it's a lot better clutch system. Now, this is one of the things that a lot of people aren't thinking about. Everybody's like, oh, they didn't give us a whole lot of horsepower and a whole lot of torque. Well, the thing about it is when you start jumping into these machines, you start adding a bunch of horsepower and torque and make them high revving, then you get a lot of noise in the cab. So I'm betting that this Defender is as fast or faster than the old Defender, plus it weighs more, it's got bigger components, it's supposed to be quieter, and you have more horsepower and torque. So you're gonna be able to do a lot more things. Now here's the thing that a lot of people aren't thinking about. This motor is already proven and already has turbo applications and stuff for it. So no longer are you gonna have to be getting a lot of crazy stuff, but you should be able to get access to turbos and stuff like that super easy for something like this. So there's a lot of aftermarket stuff already for the Ace 900 motor. So theoretically, you could adapt all that over pretty easy. Here's another cutaway of the motor showing the internal valves, pistons, things like that. You can see the cutaway here. You know, here's your bottom crank and the orientation of the motor. Up here is your valve train and all the stuff on it. But like I said, these are already proven motors. So this is something that a lot of people are gonna like this motor. It's a 3-cylinder. So here's the claims. They're showing the horsepower and torque of the HD10 versus the HD11. This is the HD10 right here, showing how the new air intake system's bigger, longer, more capable. The new cooling system is quieter, variable speed fan, better engine cooling and HVAC performance, stronger drive shaft components, 25% bigger front half shaft prop shaft, 25% bigger driveline fuse. Then you've got work, normal, and sport mode, and they are specifically calibrated for this machine. So you should notice a massive difference in them instead of just limiting your throttle input. Hopefully that's the case. A lot of times prior, they just limited your throttle input, but you can see how the horsepower and the torque start out down low in comparison to it starting out up here. And then it's got a huge climb right here and it starts to level off. But I think this machine is gonna be a very exciting machine in comparison to the other one. Now you can see here, this is talking about the CVT transmission and how the P-drive reduces backlash in the parts to maximize performance, which improves reliability. You've got a SxS secondary clutch. It enhances low speed riding with smoother and precision power delivery. Then here we go. This is talking about the components and things of this nature. So a 50% bigger double boned bushings for all suspension. Industry first double boned bushings for all suspension components. No more squeaking, noise eliminated, maintenance free. So the old Defenders had a lot of you know, parts that would squeak on them and stuff. Just hear it from time to time. A class leading ground clearance, 15 inches. Now I'm not for sure which models that is exactly on, but I'm guessing that is, because some of them say 14 and some of them say 15. Hopefully that's on the limiteds and the Lone Star and not just like the XMR model. But I guess we'll have to measure one and see when we get it. But the most ground clearance I've seen out of a factory machine is, you know, that's like a farm vehicle, is the 1500. It has amazing ground clearance. But if this has got 15, that's going to put it right up there with the 1500. You got bigger, stronger components, wheel hubs, knuckles, sway bar, bolts, nuts, more durable wheel bearings, impressive performance under load, 500 pounds. Then you've got a class-leading 2,500 tow capacity, class-leading 1,000-pound cargo capacity, up to 1,500 payload capacity, 11.9 fuel capacity, 10% increased, 2-inch hitch, which is nothing crazy. So here they are. Here's their claims on the sound level. And they're saying that the new floor mats, roof liner, and rear wall insulation. So if you remember the rear wall insulation, it was super thin, just like a little piece that went in between the seats and the actual motor and the metal. So they've made that bigger. You've got a noise reduction on multiple vehicle elements, intake system, all packages, especially XMR, front drive line, exhaust system, air intake, and dual resonators calibrated and repositioned. Up to 3 decibel lower noise level. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that is a ton. Versus our closest competitor, representing a 50% less noise. Translates into better understanding in the cab. And they're showing a CF Moto U10 Highlander, which is the light blue line, and this is the decibel. The higher you are, the worse it is. And then you've got a Polaris Ranger XP1000 North Star. So you can see that even taking off up to 10 mile an hour, you can barely hear the Defender. So 0 to 10 mile an hour, this machine is going to be extremely quiet, which is about all you're going to want to do. Well, okay, so 0 to 12 mile an hour is here. And the Defender is, you know, riding below all of them almost the entire time. Most of the time in the woods, you're riding between 12 and 20 mile an hour. So this is actually showing that it's just a hair below the Polaris North Star. So not that much difference. So to me, you know, anything's better than nothing. And then here it's talking about the full skid plates. They're 3 times thicker. They're 11.5 millimeter, 50% less attached points. And then an improved synthetic rope with the prevent rope damage Synfibs operation and its auto stop start feature, as you can see on this. Now, how does that compare to the Kawasaki Ridge XR and the Can-Am Defender Limited, Polaris Ranger North Star Ultimate, CF Moto Highlander? So if you look at the Kawasaki Ridge XR, you're looking at 116 horsepower, 73.8 foot-pounds of torque. The Can-Am Defender is 95 horsepower and 70 foot-pounds of torque. And the Polaris Ranger North Star Ultimate is 82 and 62 foot-pounds. Your CF Moto Highlander is 88 horsepower and 69 foot-pounds of torque. So that puts the Kawasaki Ridge XR above the Can-Am Defender Limited, and the wheel travel numbers are higher on the Ridge by 0.7 inches. So, you know, a little over half an inch. Your ground clearance is 14.4, so these two are very competitive. The Can-Am Defender Limited has a little bit better payload, and the Polaris Ranger is behind all of them in horsepower and torque, but its travel is behind all of them too. So if you look at the travel of the Polaris, it's 10 front and 10 rear. The CF Moto is 10 front and 11 front and 10.4 in the rear. So you can kind of see it goes the Can-Am or the Kawasaki Ridge, Can-Am Defender, CF Moto, and then the Polaris North Star as far as travel numbers. So that's kind of a big deal for a lot of people. I just wanted to show that so people could see. So, you know, there's a lot to think about when you're looking at these machines. And, you know, to me, these two here are your top dogs now in this segment. We're not considering the Ranger 1500. I think that's a totally different machine. And it's just a different driveline. It's a lot bigger. It's definitely in this class, but it's just a little bit different, and we will compare those two. But right now I wanted to compare these four machines and showcase what I'm talking about. So like I was talking about, they also upped the brake size on the Defender this year. And if we look at the brake size like I was talking about before, you've got dual 262 millimeter disc brakes with twin pistons in the front. And then if we go over to the Ridge, it has, let's see, it has 249 twin piston in the front. So you've got bigger brakes in the front of the Defender. On the rear of the Defender, it's got 236 millimeter twin piston. So if you go over here to the Ridge, it has 249. So it's a hairline bigger, but it's a single piston caliper. So the Ridge has a single piston caliper in the rear. I think that the dual piston will be better even though it's littler, but without using these two, because the Ridge actually weighs less than the Defender. Now this is the Lone Star Edition, so this has 4 speakers, the rock sliders, it's got the big bumper, it's got 15-inch, you know, beadlock or 15-inch rims. And these tires are a lot better tire than what comes on this Ridge. But the weight on the Ridge is, let's see if I can find it here. So curb weight is, let's go with dry weight. And that way we've got a good idea. So dry weight on the Ridge is 2,403 pounds. And then on the Defender, you're looking at 2,755 pounds. So you're looking at roughly a, you know, let's say 300 pound difference between these two machines. But you know, on the Defender, you're, like I said, you're getting a more robust bumper, and I feel like the components are going to be bigger on this Defender. I feel like the A-arms and things of that nature are going to be bigger, but this has a little bit more wheel travel in the front and the rear, and it's got 14.4 inches of ground clearance. This says 14 inches. So I don't know where the discrepancy is. I don't know if these models right here, maybe the XMR has the 15 inches of ground clearance. I don't know. Some places say that these have 15. Some of them say 14. So I'm not really sure. You know, all I've got to do is go off what they've said. And in the reveal, they said 15 inches. Online, they say 15 inches. This says 14 inches. Several places have said 14. So it really, I'm not really certain on which has the, which one it is, you know, and I don't know on the models. But they have made a ton of improvements on this Defender. But I'm going to tell you that, you know, this is one of the things that you have to consider. And we're going to go through all these and talk about this. But on the Ridge, you're getting a 3-year warranty. Now, to me, that is huge. You know, for them to say, hey, we're going to give you 3 years of warranty, whereas most companies like Can-Am is going to give you 1 year. So you literally, if you don't catch a flaw in the first year or figure it out, and the problem with that is a lot of these companies have certain issues and recalls and things like that, and they'll usually cover them under the first year, and some of the recalls they'll do after that. But it's really hard to get anything done once that warranty is out. So the great thing about the Ridge is you've got 3 years to figure that out. To me, that is worth a ton of money. And I'm going to tell you, you can get this Ridge for way cheaper than you can get the Defender, you know, even the Limited, like if you just go the Limited model. So, you know, to me, that's a win for Kawasaki. And I think that their numbers is a win, and they've been out. You know, they've got 116 horsepower compared to the Defender, whereas the Defender has 95 horsepower and 70 foot-pounds of torque. Now, I do think that the Defender will be quieter in the cab. These are a little bit noisy, and they're high revving motors. Like if you look, let's see if it tells the RPM. I don't see it on here, but I know the RPM, for you to get 116 horsepower, you're at 8,500 RPM. So to get that peak horsepower, you've got to have this motor revved out in a very high thing. I would like to see the graph, the horsepower graph of this Defender with this XR. Now, another drawback. So the reason I'm using XR is because it only goes backwards from here. So if you get a Limited, you've got less horsepower, less torque, and it's just not as sporty of a machine. So this is a better competitor to what this is. But the crazy thing is this one right here, you only have 4 seats. So they're shooting this for a sporty model. This is kind of between farming and, you know, sport, but it's not that good for sport. This is not, I mean, if I was going to do this, I would just get an Expedition. You're getting a way better shock package and things like that. But I just want to use the XR because it has the best numbers that Kawasaki offers for something like this. I still think that the Defender has 6 seats. They all flip up. It's a more ergonomical thing for what these people are looking for in this, because if you're buying this Defender to trail ride, like hardcore trails, I would rethink your whole thought process, because once you get over, you know, 15, 20 mile per hour on a trail with these, they're going to beat you to death. I mean, I don't care what someone tells you. I've had them on trails. You don't fast trail ride with something like this. And this has 4 seats. So there's so many things that go into this when you're looking in buying these. But if you go back to the Limited model on this Ridge, like I said, you're going to get less horsepower, less torque, less wheel travel, all that. So I was using this as a peak for Kawasaki's thing. And it's a, you know, on paper, a better deal than the Can-Am Defender. So to me, I would still take the Defender over this, just because you're getting 6 seats. I like the look of the Defender better. I think it's a classier look, and I think the components are going to be bigger on it. Now, I've talked to a lot of people on this Kawasaki, and they say it is absolutely a tough machine, and they don't see a lot of trouble out of it. I've spoke with several dealers, including Rex's Cycle Shop, who I'm actually probably going to talk to more about this. But they seem to be a solid unit, and they're not getting a whole lot of them back in. So the wheelbase on this Ridge the overall length, like if you're looking at bumper to bumper from here to here, is 156, you might as well say 157 inches. Now, the overall length on the Defender is 162.4 inches. So you're actually getting a little bit shorter machine in this. So its turning radius will probably be a little bit better than what the Defender is. And when we had the Defender and the Polaris Ranger out, now the Ranger had 29-inch tires and the Defender had 30s, which makes a difference. You know, the bigger the tire, the less your turning radius is. But the Polaris Ranger turned way, way sharper, and Polaris actually lists their turning radius. I know Can-Am doesn't list their turning radius, but the, let's see if it tells the turning radius on here. So it doesn't tell the actual turning radius on this. But all these are CVT, very comparable in how they're set up. Your fuel capacity on the Defender is 11.9 gallons, and your fuel capacity on the Ridge is 12.9. So you've got bigger fuel capacity on the Ridge. Like I said, they did a really good job on this Ridge. Now, another thing to consider is your visibility. And the visibility that is in the Defender is unmatched by any machine I've seen. You can see out of these machines just really, really well. And it's something that, you know, once you sit in it, you're like, man, I can see everything. And that's one of the things that we admire about it. But you can see here, you've got huge pillar, like the width on this and stuff. So your visibility won't be as good. But you guys can, you know, let me know your thoughts on this. I know a lot of people love these Ridges. I know a lot of people love the Rangers. A lot of people love the new CF Moto. But if we go to the Polaris Ranger, it's got a ground clearance of 14 inches, width is 65, and the curb, or the estimated dry weight, is 2485. So it's actually lighter than the other two. It's got 11.5 fuel capacity. So it has the littlest fuel capacity out of all of them, which it is a V-twin. I'd be curious to see what the difference is. Its wheelbase, that's the wheelbase. What's the overall length? So 152, so it's the shortest of the three so far. It's shorter than the other two. And the turning radius is 17.5 foot. None of the other ones that I've seen list that, but I will tell you, all of the other units will take 30-inch tires without rubbing. The Polaris Ranger, some 30-inch tires, if they run true, will rub, and you will have to put like a different wheel and tire package, or you'll have to put the pucks on it to lift it up, because the 29-inch tires are really close to the fender wells as they are from the factory, and there's not much clearance above here either. One of the things that I will say is about the Ranger is maneuvering it in the woods. When you're looking out and you're driving it, the visibility isn't as good as the Defender, but your line of sight and your nose depth and things like that is a lot easier because your body is narrow. And it's kind of hard to explain, but the body on a Defender is really, really big, but that's why they're so roomy inside. You've got way more cab space and way more room to just get comfortable. These are a very compact machine, which some people are gonna like, some people are not. And the wheelbase is 113 inches. So between, you know, tire to tire, you've got 113 inches, which is shorter than the other two also. and you've got a shorter bumper to tail light distance. It's 152 inches. So this is a little bit, you know, shorter than the other two. So therefore, you've got an easier way to maneuver it, just like I was saying. Now, they don't list the actual brake size on here or anything like that, but you've got a 7-inch display in the Polaris Ranger. So for your ride command, you've got a 7-inch. It has the ability to link up to other people so you can see them on the trail, just like the new, or they've had it forever. Actually, Polaris is the one that innovated all that, and everybody else is just following suit. But the Defender now has that with the new 10-inch. It's got a 10.5-inch or 10.25-inch display panel. And I've seen a lot of mixed reviews. Some people like it, some people hate it, but it's better than what we had. So I think they're only going to improve upon it and give people a better deal as you go along in all the stuff. But you've got 10-inch travel front and rear, and the Polaris Ranger is, you know, one of the easiest machines that I've used to maintain. You can get to the oil filter easy. You can grease anything you need to grease easy. Everything on here is super easy to maintenance. And that means a lot to someone who does all their own stuff. If you're paying to have it done, then it won't be that big a deal. If we go to the CF Moto, now they don't show a bumper on this, so I don't know if they come with bumpers or not. I haven't seen one with a bumper, so I'm doubting that they do. I think as far as you getting one of these HVAC machines for the money, like if you're just looking at getting all of that stuff for the cheapest possible, I don't think any company is going to beat CF Moto. Now, do I think that it's better than any of the other three? No, but I don't think it's worse. I think that they've got a ton of improvements, and it's you know, it's just come out, so there's probably going to be a lot of things on this machine that they redo, or that they have to find out what they've done wrong. But I think they come out of the door swinging, and for the money, like the starting MSRP is $27,000. So if you can get one of these for $27,000, you're at least $5,000 below any of the other machines in its class. And one of the things that I really, really like about this unit is you get Apple CarPlay built into the dash, as we're going to see. So to me, I think for the money, I don't think that you can beat this machine. Like I said, you know, I would not buy this over a new Defender or a Kawasaki. Now that's just me, because, you know, and it's not even necessary that it's straight from China. All these other companies use Chinese parts or Mexico parts, or, you know, wherever. But to me, it's just a platform that hasn't proven itself yet. Now, that's not saying that it, you know, isn't got everything that all the others do. I think that it has beautiful contour body lines. I think that they did a good job tucking. Like the old CF Moto, the width of this was extremely wide, and the tires didn't stick out far enough from it, and your body, you would rub it on everything. Now, if you go back and look at my other video, you'll see that it's tucked a lot better. And like I said, this thing has a lot of, you know, upgrades and things that they've done. It looks like they've took a Can-Am Defender and almost mimic it to, you know, their deal. Like, especially if you look at the door lines, how it's made, the roof, so many things remind me of a Defender. And I think that, personally, I think the Defender is going to be made a lot better, and I think the components are going to be beefier. I 100% think the motor will be better. I think that Ace will be better than this here, and it's got more horsepower, more torque. Not much, but time will tell. But just my guess, I think the Defender is going to be a better machine than this by far. I do love the seats. I do love the Apple CarPlay. I love the, you know, controls here, how they've done all this. The bed capacity has 1,000 pounds. It's electric dump. I think that's one of the things that's huge that they're giving you from the factory. Now, to me, I wouldn't want this push button to go into, you know, reverse, neutral, high, low. I would much prefer a shifter. That's just something else to go wrong. I mean, but it's on all the new vehicles. But one of the things for me is, like, if you're hill climbing or anything like that, it might be harder to hit these buttons in comparison to a shift knob. I just prefer a shift knob. I think that this is definitely fancier. And older people probably gonna like this a ton more. I'm just giving you my thoughts. You've got a little audio package that comes with it. You're getting 29-inch tires. I wish it had 30s. I think all these should go to 30s by now, giving you better ground clearance. This has the least ground clearance out of all of them. So to me, that's a step backwards, and it's not that easy to get ground clearance. Another thing that the Defender does that none of these other people do is the arched A-arms in the front. So you don't have to get some special edition or anything. You get arched A-arms straight from the factory on the Defenders. And, you know, that might not sound like it's much, but that's way less stuff for you to rub your A-arms on and things like that in comparison to a straight arm A-arm. And, you know, like I said, everybody's going to have their opinion, but a lot of it, for a lot of people, it comes down to price, and you can't beat this for price. The Defender and the Polaris are going to be your two highest ones now, and the Defender has jumped tremendously in price in comparison to the past. So if you go to the CF Moto, like I said, you're looking at $27,000 for this unit. If you go to the Polaris Ranger and you look at a North Star, and you go to the trims, you're looking at, so for this one here, you're looking at $37,000 for a North Star Ultimate Edition. Now that's going to have ride command. That's going to have, it's still got 29-inch tires. It's going to have the flip-out windshield. It's going to have roll-down power windows, the synthetic rope with all the, you know, you're going to have all the bells and whistles that you can get on one of these. And then if you go to the Kawasaki Ridge, let's see, you're looking at $33.99, so that's actually below the Polaris Ranger. And so you've got CF Moto, the Kawasaki Ridge, Polaris Ranger, and then if you go to the Defender, I think that, let's see, let's go to it, because they have went up this year in comparison to what they were previously. They've jumped in price tremendously. And just for instance here, if you go to the Defender, let's go down. So you can just get the Defender Limited, which is going to be comparable to the Polaris North Star. You wouldn't have to jump up to the Lone Star. That's actually going to be a nicer unit with more speakers, better speakers, tinted glass, rock sliders, a lot more. This would be comparable to all the other ones, your Defender Limited. So $37,799. So it's actually still higher. Now, one of the things that Polaris did is they've given you now, so like here's the Limited. This is a cabbed unit that is below the Limited, as you can see here, but you're still getting all the doors, the windows, things of that nature. So you've got a full HVAC system, and it's $33.99. So, you know, you're not going to get the sound system, and you're not going to get the, I don't think this will have the in-dash in it, but you're still getting the same horsepower. You're still getting the same suspension. You're still getting, oh, it's actually got 29-inch tires on it, so it comes with littler tires. Same brakes, same body size. Ground clearance 14 inches. So we're going to go look at the other one in a minute. I think that's why some are saying 14 and some are saying. So yeah, basically you can get this unit, and if this is not different than the previous years, I can show you a way to put a sound system in this for super cheap to save you a ton of money, especially like if you want to get this one and have that. So let's go see this here and see dimensions, capability. 14 inch. So see, that one says 14 inches there. Let's go to the XMR. I know this video is getting long, but so that's the 15 inch. So the XMR is the one with the ground clearance that's 15 inch. So people don't need to stop claiming that. Still got 14 inches of ground clearance on the Limited and the other ones, which is still great. I mean, you can put a 32-inch tire on these from the factory. That's going to give you another inch of ground clearance, so you'll be at 15. Plus, you'll have a way better driving experience in the woods on this. Anyway, I hope this helps some of you, and hope this will give you an idea of a lot of the new stuff. To me, your top two are going to be your Defender and your Kawasaki Ridge, and those two are very close. It's going to depend on what you're looking to do. If you get the XR, you're going to lose the seats. You're going to have some drawbacks. But then if you go back to the Limited, you're not going to have as much horsepower and torque as the XR and things like that. Still a great unit, but that XR is an interesting deal. It's kind of like a step more taken away from farm and going towards sport.